I'm so happy to be able to talk with you today about preparing and entering into this Christmas season. The 4 Sundays before Christmas are called the 4 weeks of Advent, and it's a Latin word for having to do with the coming, preparing for the coming. And some people have asked me at times, is Christmas only for Christians? And obviously, a lot of people besides Christians participate in the commercial part of Christmas. But people around the world and from different backgrounds can actually participate in Christmas even if they're not Christians in a different way. I don't think there's hardly anyone who, when they really think about it, think that Jesus was a bad man. People have different beliefs of what he was and what it meant, but most everyone acknowledges that he was a good man and a great man and a wise man. So just that commemoration that one can remember and think about the coming of goodness into the earth, and that it's in Jesus' form, that it came in such a simple and pure way. He was born not into wealth and not into power, but into the simplest environment one can, in a stable of animals. So there's that one can contemplate and enjoy and do some readings on. What in a more universal way everyone can tune into is that everyone that is in the northern hemisphere is that at this time of year, as the days are getting shorter and shorter and the nights are longer and longer, and many people start feeling oppressed and depressed, and then you have a Christmas frenzy on it and some family conflicts often added to it, and people have a very hard time getting through this time. Instead, what I recommend you do, instead of focusing on the outer that can be frenzied and scary or depressing, that you tune into that on the inner planes, on the spiritual plane, the light is actually growing at this time. So if outside you feel it's being darker and more depressed, if you get real quiet and meditate and tune inside, you can actually notice that the light on the inner sphere is growing, or if you tune into the spiritual world, that the light is growing there, because it's actually on the winter solstice, which is the shortest day of the year, that the light is at its zenith in the spiritual world for the northern hemisphere. It's the reverse in the southern hemisphere. So as the outer gets darker and darker, the inner becomes brighter. As the material world gets more and more into a feeding frenzy, the spiritual world is rising up to greet the turnaround that comes at the winter solstice, where from the progression becoming darker and darker, it turns around, and that is the symbol of the great new light is born, and we start moving forward towards every day is a little bit longer and every night a little shorter from then forward. If you tune out of the material squabbles going on and you actually turn into the spiritual, you'll feel that. You'll feel the growing of the light that on the internal is at its height at that time of year. And you'll also feel the turn on the outside from the days getting shorter to them turning around and stopping and getting longer. For about 3 days there, from the 21st till the 24th, it feels like a standstill in the spiritual world, where the light has stopped getting less in the outer world, and it's turning around to start increasing the lengths of the days. And in that time, if you're tuning in and feeling it, you'll feel the great anticipation growing. And that's why we celebrate Christmas 3 days later, the great coming of the light. Jesus symbolized that, the great coming of the light. And Mother Mary, the simplest, most beautiful vessel that he could come through, who had a complete dedication to contributing to the upliftment of the world, that both of them came to make the world a brighter and warmer and kinder place with more justice, more love, more peace. If you tune into that, you will be having a meaningful Christmas this year. And then the outer things won't need to bother you so much as you can tune into hearing the angels sing and the joy that grows and comes to us at this time.